for me, let's say, for example, Malaysia, they allow gambling. In Genting, there's Genting Heights, there are casinos there. But for Malaysia, they would say, okay, you can have online, but you must register here because we want to tax you. We don't want you to operate in the Philippines. The Philippines will tax you, but all the gamblers are in Malaysia. Of course, that's common sense. So I don't see a situation where they will say, oh, we are operating in Malaysia, but our headquarters are here and we are getting permits from PAGCOR. But they will be required also to register in Malaysia because Malaysia wants to capture their
Share of the market.
earnings to tax. So it doesn't make sense for them to say, oh, we will ask PAGCOR for a license, we will operate by online. Our market is Malaysia. It doesn't work that way. They will be taxed in Malaysia, and if they are taxed in two jurisdictions, then why allow yourself to be taxed in two jurisdictions? You might as well just operate in Malaysia.
I mean, that's a weird thing. I mean, I was wondering also maybe some of these Pogos will do like split it, you know, like split the difference in like they will do 50% in China, 40%, I don't know, in whatever other country, Caribbean. But still, for you, as long as there's even one dose of operation in China, Pogo pa rin yan. I mean, illegal Pogo pa rin yan.
Yeah, illegal yan because our condition is that you can operate provided your market allows you to. They do not ban gambling. That country where you operate does not ban gambling. We all know that you cannot gamble in China.
So even if 2% of their operation is to China, let's say theoretically they diversify. Suddenly may meron na silang market, I don't know, in Puerto Rico or like, I don't know, Ghana or something. Illegal pa rin yan. Parang they're just playing games with that.
They will have to show that in Puerto Rico or in Ghana, gambling is allowed.
Right. So they can play some game. The reason I ask is because I interviewed one of the heads of the special economic zones na my accusations na may ganun, and adamant na yung isa na no, their operation has nothing to do with China, blah blah blah. And I was wondering, well, they can have like part in China, part in US, whatever. Now, just going back to Alice Go, I mean, isn't this another embarrassment for the administration? I mean, this idea of heads will roll. Marcos has been saying this since nung sugar importation, you know, scandal pa, but I'm not sure enough. I mean, if any head is even rolling to begin with, or any major, you know, show of strength is being displayed on this front.
Well, we'll just have to see because he just said it recently. I understand that they have a name of a high-ranking official who helped the escape of Alice Go. But we'll see. I mean,
that will be the head that will roll.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see if they will follow that up.
Now, on one area, I think this is where we go to the meat of our discussion, Justice. The one area where I think, in fairness, Marcos Jr. has shown some strength of character and all is the West Philippine Sea issue. And then just the other day, we had the Americans here saying they're willing to do, I don't know, escorting our, you know, our resupply mission. And General Bronner, once again, was very adamant that this is about our strategic agency, we can handle it on our own. What is your read of that? And then i-connect natin sa latest development na unfortunate nangyari sa Philippine Coast Guard and sa may Sabina Shoal area.
Well, I agree with General Browner that if we can handle it, let's handle it. So if he's saying that we have not tried everything yet, let's see how we can solve this ourselves. And if we cannot, then we will ask the U.S. to help us. So I think that's a fair statement to make because it won't be long. We will know because they just rammed again our ship today in Sabina Shoal. So we will know if we can do it on our own.
Are we reaching the moment of truth whereby we have to come up with some radical new moves? So obviously arbitration is one thing you have in mind. What are the operational things you have to bring in? Kasi ginawa na natin joint patrols, ginawa na natin in transparency initiative. we're trying, it's not like, in fairness to this administration, is doing a lot of good things on this front. What else? What are the other packages of things you have to do at this point, Justice Carpio? What is your
Well,
read of China doing?
well, I've been recommending that we bring another arbitration case for ramming our Coast Guard because that's a civilian vessel. And second, if uh, if they still persist, then we ask for the U.S. to patrol the to have a joint patrol at the same time that we deliver supplies to Teresa Magbanwa or via Sierra Madre. I mean, there will be a joint patrol to accompany the RORE missions.
You think that that could make the difference, Justice?
Yes, because that's how Malaysia and Indonesia were able to survey and drill despite threats by China. The US and Australian warships were in the same area in Malaysian EEZ at the time that the Malaysian survey and drill ship was there. So that
Right.
is really the template to successfully resupply and also to survey and drill.
And just speaking of this, I mean, d- uh, you, you think China will not be especially over aggressive towards us? Do you think that there's a template really here that what works for Malaysia and Indonesia could also work for us?
Yes.
I mean, even if
Uh,
we're a US ally, even if, I mean, of course, it could work both ways, right? Even if we're pushing them on also on Taiwan question, or hindi kaya matakot ang China na we're gonna inspire more pushback by others if we keep on holding our ground? Hindi kaya
well,
panic?
th- they were not able to stop the Malaysians. They were not able to stop the Indonesians. And with more reason, they cannot stop us because we have the Arbitral Award, we have a mutual defense treaty, and the Americans are ready to accompany, to have a joint patrol at the same time. So uh, I don't think they will stop us because the American warships will be just too overwhelming for them, no? And they will not attempt to. The last thing they would do is to also attack a U.S. warship. They will not do that.
Right. And Justice, I mean, also I think from the perspective of communications, hindi kaya kailangan din makita natin mga kaubayan na talagang hindi lang tayo parang committed sa ginagawa natin, pero lumalaban din tayo. I mean, should we also bang into their, also like have our own coalitions, like, push back into them? I mean, to rally support or something like that. I mean, gray zone versus gray zone, Hall versus Hall. Should we go also in that direction, like the
Well,
Vietnam?
I think the better part is to go to the tribunal for that, because we should go to the tribunal without any taint of you having used force.
Right. So moral
Yeah, we have
sense.
the moral ascendancy, just like what we did in the Scarborough standoff. But uh, when we asked Americans to for help with it for them to accompany us, that's a different matter. I mean, the it will be if they attack the Americans will make a decision for themselves. And I don't think the Chinese Coast Guard or the Chinese Navy are in a position to fight the American Navy right now.
So what you're saying is that this is more or less the ceiling for Chinese bullying. It's time for us to, draw the line at a higher level so that they know that, they're not going to get their way no matter what they do.
Correct, because that's exactly what Malaysia did. They succeeded, and that's exactly what Indonesia did, and they succeeded.
And speaking of other ASEAN country, we recently had, since the last time we talked, the first ever joint Coast Guard patrols between Vietnam and the Philippines. Obviously, the Vietnamese also went to China. They're playing their game. But do you think that could be beginning of a new chapter for Philippines and Vietnam?
Yes, I would say that Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and maybe Indonesia should start having joint patrols because, Richard, you know, we don't know if 5, 10 years from now, there's an American president who say, "Oh, we can't be protecting everybody." They might just leave. They must. They might leave the South China Sea. So we have to prepare for the day when we'll be on our own, and the best preparation is to have joint patrols with all our neighbors, together with all our neighbors who are prejudiced by this 10 dash line.
Uh, I completely agree
That's
with you, Justice. But I mean, this could even happen next year if Trump 2.0 turns out as crazy as some people fear. I'm not saying that will
yes,
happen, but it's not impossible.
yes. So we should prepare for that day. Our first line of defense is, of course, our own uh, naval strength. Our second line of defense is MDT, Mutual Defense Treaty, and the third will be our joint patrols with the ASEAN countries who are also in the same boat as us vis-a-vis the 10 dash line.
Right.
So we should prepare for that day already.
It's a good point because the Indonesian top Indonesian general reiterated his preference for all ASEAN naval drills. That proposal was there last year, pero parang Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia lang yata sumali, di ba? And the Cambodians, in behalf of their patrons, oppose any in the so-called Natuna Sea area. So they had to move it a little bit away from the 9 dash line. I'm not sure we joined that, but do you think if ever there'll be another all ASEAN naval drills, we should definitely be part of that and push for its regularization?
Yes, we should always join, and we should one day bring it to the West Philippine Sea. I mean, what we did with the Vietnamese, I think that's a very good start because we've been wanting to do a joint patrol in our own EEZ, and we will do also a joint patrol in the EEZ of Vietnam, in the EEZ of Malaysia, in the EEZ of Indonesia. So China will see that these other countries, the small countries, have this are determined to protect their exclusive economic zones.
And together, we're not that small. I mean, we're going to be 500 million people, right? I mean, just put Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam together. I mean, that's already 500 million people easily. Um, just as we're moving towards the latter part, I'm sorry I drag you through a lot of issues because parang matagal tayo hindi nag-catch up, parang ganun. So, inabuso na kita, Justice. What about the Japan one? Also we had this first ever joint patrols with Japanese self-defense forces, right? Also within the West Philippine Sea. Do you see Japan emerging as also a very important player if the US indeed becomes more isolationist should a Trump 2.0 comes into power? Hypothetically, could Japan step up and be really not big brother, but kind of like a captain of the team?
Yes, I think we are strengthening our relations with Japan in the military front, especially the naval front. Uh, we have already I think uh, we have already signed the reciprocal access agreement with them, and they're ready to step up because the Americans have told them that you have to help us. In the South China Sea, and they are willing. And I think they know the importance because they are also facing a big problem in the Senkakus. The Chinese are very aggressive in that area, entering, in fact, their EEZ, not only their EEZ, but their territorial sea, no? Their contiguous zone. So uh, the Japanese will be happy to partner with the other countries that are they're being bullied by China. So I think they can anchor the Quad here, no? Because they have a strong navy, and they can provide us with Coast Guard vessels also.
Right. Um, Obviously that leaves also Taiwan in between us and Japan, and the Taiwanese officials recently openly suggested that they're more than happy to have some degree of cooperation with the Philippines, although obviously still working around the one China policy. From your perspective, what is the optimal and diplomatically correct way of working with Taiwan if indeed that should be the way forward?
Well, first of all, we can demarcate our boundary with a sea boundary with Taiwan. And of course, that automatically means that they will give up the the 10 dash line because they can, we will never agree to to follow China's 10 dash line, which cuts through our waters. So if they follow the normal boundary between two states, that's okay with us. And I think they will like that also because that's sort of a recognition, another recognition with them. But they were able to to have a fisheries agreement with Japan, and we should be able to do something like that, and they will be happy. And that fishery agreement will say, okay, that's the boundary where we will not fish beyond that. They will not fish beyond that boundary also on our side. So uh, that's uh, that's one thing we can do. And I don't think China can complain because Japan already did that, and we really have to demarcate the fishing boundary line because we don't want them to be fishing in our on our side. And also, well, we all know that if there's a, an invasion by China, the first thing China will do is to seize the Basi Channel because that's where the Americans will come in, will pass through to help Taiwan. But the Basi Channel is our territorial sea, so it will draw us for sure. So that's
We
why
cannot
I
be
think,
neutral. Yeah, we cannot be neutral.
yeah, I mean, because of geography, and China will have to seize the Basi Channel. That means seizing our own territorial sea. We'll have to defend our own territorial sea. That's the complication there. So we have to be prepared for that also.
Aspect of tyranny of geography, or rather, our geography being close to tyranny. Um, um, Last point, Justice. What is your advice in terms of the Philippines drawing this proper balance between showing that we are really our own, meaning we're not, proxy of US and all of that, or at least push back against that narrative by the Kremlin boys and pro-Beijing boys and Makapili boys, and at the same time also leverage what we already have. The reason I'm saying this is because I completely agree with you that eventually we have to work with the Malaysians, Vietnamese, and Indonesians, but they have to also respect us as a self-respecting country, as a self-reliant middle power, right? It's a hard balance, but it's something we have to work on, diba, Justice?
Well, actually, the Americans are not interested in any of our territories or maritime zones. It's China that's seizing our territories and maritime zones. So uh, our fight is with China, and the U.S. happens to just to help us because we are allies. But this the Chinese and their propagandists have made this appear to be a battle between the U.S. and China, and we are siding with the U.S. No, this is our own battle because uh, we have to defend our maritime zones and island territories in the West Philippine Sea, which is being encroached by China. So it is our territories and maritime zones that are being invaded. We have no choice but to fight, to defend. And in the process of defending, we are asking allies to help us. So they want to present this as the dispute to be between China and the U.S. and we are being drawn into this dispute. No, this is a dispute between China and the Philippines, and we are asking for assistance from a treaty partner, the U.S. So we have to be very clear that we are being invaded. That's why we have to fight back. We have no choice, really.
Yeah, I mean, hindi ka pwede maging neutral pag may away sa sarili mong bakuran. I mean, as the great Senator Cynthia Villar would say, "Baba pa tayo!" Di ba? I mean, you're absolutely right. It's not us being dragged by the US. Actually, we are dragging in the US
Yeah,
because
we are
we cannot
dragging
have
the
it
U.S.
one-on-one with China. Exactly.
Yeah, there was a time when the U.S. Was hesitant to say that the the Mutual Defense Treaty applies to the South China Sea. They were hesitant. We were trying to force them to make that statement. Now they're saying yes, it applies to the South China Sea. So we are the ones actually bringing them into the dispute. It's not the Americans bringing us into the dispute.
And you think we have to hammer that point in the upcoming midterm elections? Because obviously I mean, I'm sure China will be interested in certain parties doing better in
Yeah,
midterm elections.
yeah. We have to hammer the point that it is our territory and maritime zones that are being invaded. And the US can always walk away. That's we're not our territories are safe, our maritime zones are safe. But we have asked them to help us.
On that clarion call, Justice Carpio, thank you so much. I'm sorry if I stumped everything on you, but that was a fantastic conversation. Parang nag-press conference tayo together. Justice, this was like our utak forum. Thank you, Justice. Everyone is appreciating your commentaries, including our haters. Everyone is reacting as we spoke. Like there were like 700 comments live coming in all different direction. Meron yung never Marcos, never Duterte, meron yung Duterte, ayaw sa Duterte, meron ayaw sa US, ayaw sa China. So that means we are making the right noise. Justice, thank you so much for helping us to make Deep Dive one of the leading podcasts in the country and for educating the public in the best way possible. Again, you're more than welcome to disagree with us, but do it based on facts, not based on propaganda. Salamat, Justice. Mabuhay po kayo, and hopefully we can have you soon in person in studio with Ronald Llamas and the rest of the gang. We would always be happy to
Yeah,
catch
I
up with
look
you.
forward towards that. And thank you for having me, Richard. And thank you to our viewers.
Salamat, Justice. God bless and talk to you soon po.